The early morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, casting a soft glow over the room as I stood before my wife's closet. The sight of her neatly arranged clothes, once a familiar comfort, now felt like a cruel reminder of her absence. With a heavy heart, I reached for the first hanger, lifting out a blouse that Sophia had loved to wear on summer evenings. The delicate fabric slipped through my fingers, the memories it held threatening to overwhelm me. What are we going to do with all of this? My sister's voice broke the silence, her tone tinged with sadness as she joined me by the closet. I sighed, running a hand through my hair as I tried to push back the flood of emotions threatening to consume me. Some of it will go to Goodwill, some to the yard sale. But there are things I want to keep, things that remind me of her. My sister nodded, her expression sympathetic as she reached for a box to start packing. I understand. Just take your time, okay? We'll get through this together. But as I watched her carefully fold each item of clothing, the reality of Sophia's absence settled over me like a heavy blanket. And as I emptied out her closet, it felt like I was saying goodbye to a part of myself, one memory at a time. As I sat amidst Sophia's belongings, memories of our life together flooded my mind like a torrential downpour. Each item held a story, a precious fragment of the love we had shared. I picked up a framed photograph from the bedside table, our smiles frozen in time, a snapshot of happier days. Do you remember this? I asked aloud, my voice barely a whisper as I turned to my sister, who was carefully wrapping a delicate vase. She glanced up, her eyes soft with understanding. Of course, that was from your anniversary trip to the beach, right? I nodded, a bittersweet smile tugging at the corners of my lips. Yeah, it was one of the best weekends of our lives. I traced a finger over the glass, feeling the warmth of Sophia's laughter echoing in the room. My sister reached out, squeezing my hand in silent support. She loved you so much, you know. It's clear in every memory, every moment you shared. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded, the weight of grief and gratitude pressing down on my chest. I know, and I loved her just as much. I took a deep breath, trying to hold on to the fleeting fragments of happiness that lingered in the air. But as the memories washed over me, I couldn't help but wonder if love alone was enough to heal the wounds that now lay between us. Tensions simmered in the air as my sister and my mother-in-law squared off over the fate of Sophia's belongings. What had started as a simple task of sorting through her things had quickly escalated into a battle of wills, each woman determined to stake her claim. I watched as my sister eyed Sophia's jewelry with a covetous gleam in her eye, her fingers itching to snatch up the most valuable pieces. Those were Sophia's favorite earrings, I said softly, my voice barely audible over the mounting tension. My mother-in-law shot me a sharp look, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. They should go to me, she declared, her tone leaving no room for argument. After all, they were family heirlooms passed down through generations. I felt the surge of frustration bubbling up inside me as I tried to navigate the minefield of emotions that threatened to explode at any moment. But Sophia would want me to have them. I insisted, my voice trembling with the weight of my grief. The two women turned to face me, their expressions a mix of anger and disbelief. You have no right to speak for her, my mother-in-law snapped, her voice dripping with venom. You lost that privilege the moment she died. I bit back a retort, the sting of her words cutting deep into my wounded heart. But as I looked around at the wreckage of our family, I couldn't help but wonder if there would ever be a way to bridge the divide that now separated us. The weight of accusation hung heavy in the air as I faced the hostile gaze of my wife's family. They saw me as the villain in their tragic tale, the one responsible for the pain and suffering that had torn their world apart. I loved her, you know, I said, my voice barely above a whisper as I tried to make them understand. I would never have hurt her intentionally. But my words fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the storm of anger and resentment that surrounded us. You killed her, my mother-in-law spat, her eyes blazing with fury. You drove her to her grave with your lies and your deceit. I felt the surge of frustration rising within me as I struggled to defend myself against their accusations. That's not true, I protested, my voice trembling with the weight of my grief. I would have done anything to save her, to keep her safe. But as I looked into the eyes of my wife's family, I saw only hatred and blame reflected back at me. And in that moment, I couldn't help but wonder if their anger would ever fade, if there would ever be a way to heal the wounds that now divided us. The cemetery stretched out before me, a sea of marble markers standing silent sentinel over the final resting places of the departed. I stood before Sophia's grave, the cold stone marker a stark reminder of all that I had lost. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. "I'm so sorry for everything." Tears welled up in my eyes as I traced the letters of her name etched into the stone, each stroke a painful reminder of the love we had shared. "I never meant for any of this to happen," I confessed, my voice choked with emotion. "I never wanted to hurt you." But as I looked down at the ground beneath my feet, I couldn't shake the feeling that somehow, somewhere, Sophia was watching over me. And in that moment, I made a silent vow to honor her memory, to live a life worthy of the love we had once shared. "I'll miss you," I whispered, my words carried away on the wind. "But I'll carry you with me always." And as I turned to walk away, I felt a sense of peace settle over me, the weight of grief and guilt lifting from my shoulders. For in that moment, I knew that no matter where life took me, Sophia would always be with me, guiding me, watching over me, and loving me, forever and always.